Hey everyone, this is Lola Reddy from Abstrakt Music Lab, and today we're doing something different in the channel. Today we're gonna do a mix and master session, and we're not gonna do a mix and master session for one of my tracks, we're gonna do it for one of my subscribers' tracks. And I heard this track first on a feedback live stream that I've done, and you can see this one on the top right corner. And essentially based on that, I chose one of the track from the live stream and decided to do a mix and master on the track, so you can see how I would mix and master a song that was not made by myself. So this way I have to deal with stuff created by other people, not my own stuff. Essentially, the first thing that I did on this project, this is the project from Eggplant and Garlic. Thank you so much for providing and for letting me do this over here. But essentially, the project that they provided to me was this one over here, and everything is in stems at the moment. As you can see it over here, this is basically the project. But I did a couple things in the project. I renamed a lot of the elements just because I don't like the way that these stems are being grouped. For example, I don't feel that this element should be grouped with this element over here because they don't really match in terms of sonics. This is a bongo impact, and this is more like a second lead. So essentially, I feel that they should have their own element over there, their own stem. For example, this one also over here, this is like a bongo loop. It doesn't make sense to mix a bongo loop the same way that I would mix a lead or even a bongo impact. So that's why you're gonna see in the new project that I've rendered everything into new stems. You're gonna see how I divided everything. Essentially, if the channel has its own particularity, so let's say this ARP over here, where's the ARP? Both ARPs in this channel are doing the same thing, so they can be grouped. But I would never group the ARP with the pad, because the ARP and the pad are doing something different. Another example, kick and bass. The kick is one thing, the bass is another thing. And even within the bass, you have this respace, and you have this basic sine wave, which again, I'm going to mix them individually because this is one element of the track, this is another element of the track, another sonic characteristic, same thing for the kick. So now I'm going to go into this new project so we don't waste that much time into the organization of the project and how I stem it out, everything. Another important reason, just one last reason why you should do this. We never know what's going to happen with plugins in 3, 4, 5 years. So you never know if you're going to be able to open your project in 3, 4, 5 years. So it's always good to have everything into stems. So if you need to go back in 3, 4, 5 years into your track, let's say someone wants to remix your song, you still have the stems of the song. You don't need to find old installers. But enough with the chit chat. Let's go into the mixing session so we can already listen to the song, how it sounds like. And it's going to go in 1, 2, and 3. So now you can see that we have all the stems from the last project, but they are exclusive in its group. So for example, over here, you can see that the kick is one stem, the drone is another stem, the sub is another stem over here. You can also see that the hat is one stem, also that the pad is another stem, anything. You can even see the effects, how I stemmed everything out into different elements. So we have weird effects, we have impacts, we have bongo effects, we have just white noise effects. And we also have the return channels over here and all the vocal channels split out into one channel. So now we're going to start this. The first thing that I always do when starting my tracks and starting my mix and masters is picking reference tracks. I pick my own tracks because of compatibility and also because of copyright, so this way I can clear it up afterwards. But I also picked this song from Bow to Divide because it's really good and it's reminding me a little bit of it, so it's going to be a good reference. But the first thing is, once you have these tracks over there, then I'm going to go into the master. Just to explain a little bit into this mastering process, everything over here, all these channels in orange are buses, and these channels send to this bus, and this bus send to the master. So all the orange send to the master, and the mastering chain is already on. If you want to see how I make this mastering chain, you can see this video in the top right corner. And if you want to see how I organize everything and grab this template over here so you can use it on your own projects, you can grab it here in the description, or you can see how I organize in the top right corner as well. Lastly, if you also want to get feedbacks on your song, Join our Discord available here in the description below. We have a really good community over there, a lot of people helping each other, and we also have a lot of feedback sessions, live streams as well, so you can always be aware when they're happening and everything. So let's start this mix and master. First thing that we're gonna do is adjust the master. So before we go into the master, let's just listen to how this sounds like. So one thing that I don't really like at the moment is that the drop doesn't have that much attack. The intro is a bit too aggressive. Here we lose a lot more energy. We want something a little bit more consistent. I'm missing a bit of consistency in the bass. And that could be because of loudness. That could be because of a lot of other things. Can you see here how the notes are different? At the same time, I feel that the percussion is a bit too quiet, so we're probably gonna go into the percussion a little bit. This transition doesn't have that much, like it just happens, so I'm gonna try to soften that up as well. Yeah, I don't really like that. Probably gonna take it off. This poo a bit too loud. This transition is better, but I feel that it could be a little bit more impacting. Still missing a bit of power in the bass. Just feel that the bass is not even there. Probably here is just the ending of the song. Probably this transition is a bit abrupt as well. This happens, so I'm just gonna go into it as well and tweak it. But yeah, just so you can have an idea of what we're working with. So now the first thing that we're gonna do is over here, we're gonna start here in the master, and we're gonna go here into the glue compressor, and we're gonna make sure that this, at this beginning, has 2 dB of compression. Around this is essentially the starting point to me. And after this, I'm gonna listen to my references. You can hear that this track is a bit quieter comparing to the reference. Same thing with this one. But we're gonna reach everything over there. We're gonna get there as well. And the first thing that I do is going into my spectrum. I route my channels in a way that this master and all these 3 references, they go to this channel over here. So I can look at the spectrum over here. deal, but I don't use Ableton. So if you don't use Ableton, my recommendation to you is go to Voxengo Span. It's a free plugin that you can use it over there. And when using this plugin, the only thing that I would recommend you to do is going and using these settings over here if Ableton helps me out with this. These are the settings that you should use. And if you use these settings, your spectrum is going to look exactly like Ableton spectrum. So let's start from here. I'm going to use Ableton's just for a matter of just being used to it, but let's start with this. The first thing that we're going to look into is the kick and the bass. The kick and the bass are the most essential thing that we're going to mix and master. And one thing that I did intentionally to show you guys how I do it, I took off the sidechains of the original project so we can do it over here. And this way you can use it and replicate this process in your own channels as well. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to anchor a kick into a specific level. So for example, if you listen to our reference, the kick is playing over here. This one, the kick plays a bit louder. But you can see that the kick is, especially this one over here, in the first reference, it plays over here. So we're thinking that the kick plays either at -9 or also at -11. So because of that, I'm going to start by placing the kick of this track at -10. Why in the middle? Why not in the middle? I liked at -9, I liked at -10, so in the middle possibly would work as well. You can see how loud it is right now, and I'm going to just place it at -10, something like this. Now we also have the sub of this track over here. Again, no sidechain whatsoever. And let's listen in the reference track, how loud do we need to put the sub as well. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can see this video in the top right corner on how to mix your sub and your kick as well. This is essentially what I do for all my tracks. I'm gonna go into this part over here because I know that I do a bass change over here. So you can see that the kick is over here and the sub is over here. So first thing that I'm noticing is that the kick is at -9 as we've seen before, and the sub is playing at -11. So what this tells me is that, let me pick the notepad so we can take some notes over here as well. What this is telling me is that the kick equals -9 dB, the sub equals -11 dB. Therefore, the sub equals the kick -2 dB. So knowing this, and knowing that we placed this kick at -10, we can come up that the sub equals -10 -2 dB. Oops, not 12. Therefore, the sub equals -12. And that's what we're going to do over here. It's a bit, we need to push it a bit more, so we're going to push this over here in 10 dB and take 10 dB from here. So this way it's at the same level, but we have more leeway over here. -12 and -10. But now what we have to do is put the sidechain over here. And to put the sidechain, essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the kick. First, I'm going to put a sidechain on. And by putting this sidechain over here, I'm going to use LFO2. But if you don't use LFO2 and you want to use some kind of volume shaper like this, you can either get volume shaper from Cable Guys, available here in the description below, or you can also get Calum Audio's Flux Mini 2, which is also available here in the description below. But now what I'm going to essentially do is I'm going to understand how long do my sidechain needs to be. So based on this kick, my sidechain needs to be over here. And you see how essentially we have the same length for the kick and the sidechain. But for the sub, I'm going to be a little bit steeper with this. I'm going to go even further over here. So essentially it sounds like this. And now for my second octave over here, my drone bass, I'm gonna do the same process. First of all, can you see how it has a sub over here? We're gonna have to cut this sub off because one, we already have a sub over here. We don't need two subs, right? Otherwise, they can cancel each other or even they can stack it up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the sidechain as well. But first we're gonna cut this. And to cut this, we're gonna have to understand the MIDI that this is playing. Just so we don't waste time trying to track it down, we're gonna just grab the MIDI from the original track and it's going to be right here. As you can see over here, we brought the MIDI from the original track and we're gonna just understand this MIDI over here so we can develop a cut to cut that sub out from this channel over here, because again, we don't need two subs playing at the same time, as you can see it over there. So essentially this is playing D, F, G, D, B, flat, C. Okay. Our lowest note is B flat, which is the same as A sharp. And the highest note is G over here. So we're playing from A sharp until G. Okay. But can we see that it's not playing at the same time? So we're probably going to have to do a little bit of automation as well. But essentially, if we do a cut in 105 hertz, because the lowest note that we're playing is A sharp. So if we do a cut over here in let's say 105 over here, G sharp, we get everything that we need and we take out everything that we don't need. We don't need that G over there because already that's part from the sub and we don't want this over there. So let's do a cut at 105 hertz over here. But again, we're gonna have to automate this. We're gonna start this with at 105. Let's see if we're cutting the sub. Yeah, we're drastically lowering it. We don't need to entirely cut it. We just need to drastically lower it. If you want to entirely cut it, you can do two cuts over here. So, can you see how we cut a lot of that bass? However, I see another problem over here that we're going to have to fix. Can you notice how this note over here, which is playing the same thing, it's at one loudness, and this note over here is at another loudness. So we're going to have to somehow balance this. We're going to have to lower these two notes and raise these two notes to maybe have something a little bit flatter. Why do you want a flat bass? Because we want something to be stable throughout the whole track. You don't want one note of the bass to be louder than the other. You want everything to be as flat as possible. So we're going to go here into the channel and try to understand what is happening. And what happened is maybe this cut over here is what is happening, is what is causing this. So essentially, let's see if this still happens when we do that, when you have this over there. I'm going to just pick this and put it over here. It's a bit flatter over here, but it's still a big drastic thing over there. So again, we're gonna do and have to dig into why this is happening. It could be because of serum. It could be something that we're doing here in serum. It could be this cut over here. So essentially, we're gonna disable this EQ. Or just the EQ that it's doing that, possibly this one. Because we want those two notes to be flat. Can you see how the notes now are a bit flatter? They don't have that much different as they used to have. I'm gonna just route this to the kick and bass. Isn't that the same thing? No, it's not the same thing because we did a lot of boosting over here. But if you listen how it was, listen to the volume difference that this had. One note was playing over here at -24. And the loudest note was playing also here at -16. So essentially what we're saying is that one note plays 9 dBs quieter than the other. And what we're trying to do over here and what we did over there was, we're gonna have to adjust the loudness, of course, of this, but everything now plays at the same loudness. The root notes play at the same loudness. We have a flat bass, and that's what we wanted from the beginning. But what about this sub? Well, we're gonna have to automate this over here to get rid of this note. So remember those 105 cuts that we did? What we're gonna do is, for these two notes, they're a bit higher. We're going to automate this a bit higher as well. So this way it cuts it out. You can see that we cut it out a little bit more. We're gonna do a little bit more over here. We don't need another sub. We already have this coming from here, right? Remember? Oops, this is a sub. We don't need 2 ice of these. But again, essentially what we did over here, and we're gonna duplicate this to any time that this progression is played. We don't need that over there, because over there, essentially this is going to play differently, right? Yeah, we don't need it over here because this is a flat. Okay, we need it again over there. And we need it again over here, over here, over here. Again, the reason why we're doing this is to get rid of the sub frequencies of this bass, because we don't need another sub over there in the project. We already have an exclusive channel for this. We again got rid of that bass not being so flat. So we got this a little bit more careful. And now we're gonna mix this in. Again, how loud should we put this? Look at the reference and tell us. So let's listen over here. If you listen, we have something over here playing in that frequency range, right? Let's say -14. Something around here. So we're gonna place our second octave, let's say like this, at the same loudness. Something that peaks at the same loudness as what we're listening in the reference track. The idea is, if we have something that it's already worked in a reference track, and I'm using my tracks just because I can avoid the copyright strikes, but you can use any track and you can emulate the same thing for any track. So this way, when you listen to your kick and bass, it's going to sound consistent to what you want to sound like. The last thing that we're gonna have to do over here is pick that LFO2 over here. But since we don't have sub, we don't have to be that aggressive with this. We're gonna be a little bit more relaxed so we have a little bit more flow in this bass. Instead of being really aggressive, we don't want the bass to jump that much. Perfect. Now that we have this, we don't need this anymore. We're going to delete this. We already have a new bassline that is going to do the same thing. We're going to go into the other elements because I feel that there's a lot of low end coming from here. We're going to solve this over here first. So first thing that we're going to look into is what is playing over there. And that's what I like, having everything in stems. I can actually see we have elements over here. We have elements over here and over here and over here. Like everything that has an element, we can see it. We don't need to assume that it's there. So first thing, this over here, continuous lead. We're gonna do a cut because we don't need that low end, possibly from the pad. We don't need this as well because we already have this coming from the mid bass over here. Without this, can you see how less crowded it feels? And now we also, about this one. Let's put it over there just for the sake of having it. And then this ARP. Yeah. Can you see how much it had? We don't need this again. If we played it without this with the bass. But once we have this, see how it feels a little bit more disconnected once to each other? Again, without it, with it. And now if you play everything again, before, can you see how the low end has a bit of crowd over there? Especially coming from the pads. Now with everything that we did, the low end is a little bit more untouched, a little bit on its own, which is a lot better for the sound. It's not going to feel that crowded over there as well. Just making sure this is okay. Okay, that's the first thing that we're going to do. So we're going to adjust this. Let's see if there's anything in the percussions. We don't have any percussions at this point, so we don't need to worry that much about this. Reverses. We also have low end coming from here, so we're also going to clear it from there. Again, this had a lot of low end that we don't need. We already have a bass in that range. Without it. See how clear it feels? Now, let's go and start doing some sidechain because it feels like this could have a little bit more sidechain. I don't see that much sidechain happening over here. So possibly over here, I hear a bit of sidechain. But not as much as what I want. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna go to this mid bass over here. I'm gonna pick the LFO2 or whatever shaper box you're using. Then we're gonna use it over here as well. Maybe not as intense, since this one already has a bit. But we're gonna put this on the lead as well. We're gonna also put this on the ARP. Leo, but what are the frequencies? What are the depth that you're using? The depth is essentially the dry wet. I don't like using LFO2 doing this because if you put this over here, it's essentially the same thing as putting it as 50%. But this looks better to me. And that's why I use it the depth and not the range, the curve over here. And why these frequencies? Why 66%? Well, essentially, the more important the element is, the more I want it to jump along with the song because I want the whole song to jump all together. One thing that we're gonna have to do and we're gonna do afterwards is automate the sidechain to only play in the drops. We already have a hat over here. And normally when I'm doing my mixing, I go as the elements appear. So the hat over here is the second element that I hear that wasn't there in the beginning. We also have this swell over here. Let's add same thing over here. Leo, why not add everything into the master bus? Because I don't want the same rate for all the elements. The less important the element is, the less depth I need it. And same thing like this. This element, it's kind of buried in the mix. So I'm going to give this region over here to this. What about this brass tab? Possibly has some low end as well. You can see the low end from here, right? We don't want that low end as well. So we're going to grab this again, copy paste. Cool. Same thing over here. Everything needs sidechain, so everything will get a little bit of sidechain as well. Now the hat, how do I mix the hat? Normally what I'm doing is, now we're gonna have to do and put everything at the same loudness. Again, when we listen to our track comparing to the reference track, and we see that when we go back to the master, it increased a little bit of the threshold, right? So because of that, we're gonna put a little bit more of this down. And we're gonna try to push the master a little bit more, just so we can match the loudness. Let's see if it's matching the loudness here. Maybe we can push the kick and the bass a little bit more. So we're gonna go back and push the kick and the bass a little bit more. These are just some on-the-go adjustments that we're gonna have to do in the master, because once we set the kick and the bass, now that I've already set everything and corrected everything that needed to be corrected over here in the pads and the melodics, that's why I'm going back to the bass, because now that I have a clearer vision of how this song is gonna sound with everything, I'm already starting to feel a little bit of the kick is a bit too clocky, let's say, like it has too much knock, has too much pop, pop, you know? So I'm gonna try to get rid of this with an EQ. Possibly something like this. So without it. And in the mix. Can you hear how it has a little bit less knock now? But this, what we've done, might have messed up the level. No, it's where we want it to be. Perfect. This could be a bit louder. Same thing for this. As this is a drone bass, it will always vary here and there. It's always changing. Possibly we don't need that much attack in the sound as well. If you're liking the video, hit the like button. If you loved it, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos from Abstrakt Music Lab. And let's keep on going. Now we've settled everything. We corrected the kick and the bass. So as just recapping what we've done so far, we adjusted the kick and the bass. Then after adjusting this, we adjusted the melodics that had a lot of low-end frequencies to get rid of those frequencies. And then we readjusted the kick and the bass because, again, those low-end frequencies were fooling us, thinking that they were at one place, but they weren't at this place. They were a little bit small, a little bit lower, because there were a lot of crowd from the melodics and everything that we took out with the sidechain and also with the EQ over here. So now over here, what we're gonna do is go into a little bit into the drums. Essentially, we start with the hat. I'm going to listen to my reference and I'm gonna try to find this hat over here, this counter hat. When listening to my track and the reference, listen and compare and let me know what you think in the comments over here, if it's louder or quieter than the reference. Listen again. To me, it feels like it's louder, the reference. Since it's louder, and the reason because it's louder, we're gonna go and adjust these percussions a little bit to make them louder as well. Just so I can see them as they come, I'm gonna organize it a little bit, just so again, as they come in, I can see them coming also as well. This is over here, and this is boom over here. So again, as the elements appear, I'm gonna see them, I'm gonna mix them. But here we have these 4 elements in the percussions. We have a continuous hat, we have a clap, we have some percussions, and we have this main hat. So essentially, we're going to start with the main hat because it's the main element. And again, based on the reference, I feel that it's quieter, so I'm going to come here and make it louder. How loud? I don't know. It has to be something drastic, so I'm going to boost it by 10 dB over here. It feels like it's at the same loudness right now, so I'm just gonna leave it this way. But we raised 10 dB over here and then lowered 2. So we raised it in 8 dB. Quite drastic over there. Now the clap, same thing. We're gonna listen to the reference and listen to this track and see. This clap now feels a bit too loud, so I'm gonna lower this a little bit. Now we're gonna listen to the continuous hat, and we're gonna have to listen to the shakers in the reference. It feels like the reference is a bit louder. Same thing for the percussions. The percussions, we can't really find a parallel because I'm not sure if we have that percussion in the reference track. So because of that, I'm just gonna, after adjusting everything over here, I'm gonna make sure that this is compatible to what I hear in my track. Maybe here. Over here, we come up with some claves, this additional percussion, and some low-end percussion. So the first thing is low-end percussion. There's a lot of bass over here. We don't need that bass. This feels a bit more to the left, right, so I'm gonna put it a little bit more to the center. How it was before. And how it is now. And also what I'm going to do over here is put a Haas effect so we can make it a little bit wider. Same thing for these claves, like I don't hear them when I put it over here. But if I put it a Haas effect, I hear it a lot better, and I'm making the percussion a bit more stereo. So without the Haas effect, without this, now with it, and you see how the percussions become a bit louder, a bit wider, sorry. And we also have this, that again, we had a lot of low end coming from here. What is the problem having low end coming from here? This is going to clash with the bass that we had over there in the top. So by not having this, and again, since we have low end, a little slight LFO over here would not be harmful. Just slightly. And same thing maybe for the claves over here. Just to create a little bit of groove over here, possibly also in this continuous hat as well. Again, I want the whole track, not only the melodics, but also the percussions to move along with the song. And you can see that I'm using the same shape over here. I'm just changing the depth over here. Essentially, it's going to go in the same curve. And instead of having multiple sidechains, multiple curves, and multiple, I'm just adjusting the depth. So one is sidechaining more to the other, but essentially they're all in the same rhythm. And here's a place where I'm gonna interfere in the song, and I'm like, maybe this could be a bit different, because you can see that they changed the bass over here to something different, but I feel it's a bit too sudden. It's still part of the drop over here. We lose a little bit of the energy that we had because the sub goes out, and after this, it just loses more energy because the kick kind of fades as well. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to have the same kick over here, and we're just going to fade it afterwards. So I'm just going to put this bass that we had like this, something that I'm going to copy and paste this. My mouse is not really helping me today. There you go. And I'm gonna do a cut over here. Again, since we did a change over here in the sub, we have to do the change over here in the mid bass as well. Mid bass, second octave, whatever you want to call it. And you can see that this basically disappears because possibly what is happening here? Why is this disappearing? There's something that is killing that. I don't know what it is though. Could it be because, oh, that's it. This note is just extended, so we need to pick this and put it over there. Leo, but you're changing the song from someone else. Yes, sometimes that happens. Okay, there you go. But instead of simply disappearing with this sub, that you can see that it disappears. Instead of disappearing with it, I'm gonna create some effects over here. I'm just gonna filter it out. So now this gets faded out instead of just disappearing. Feels smoother, the transition, right? I'm also gonna add some effects over here. Leo, but this is not your track. Yes, but I feel that it's gonna be better. So if it's gonna be better, why not? And if they don't like it, they can just ask me to change it back. You can actually feel that there's a transition over there, and that's why I'm doing this. So this way, the transition actually is felt like a transition. And now I'm going to filter this bass over here because I don't want, even though it continues on going, I'm gonna take it out from here, and I'm gonna do the same fade that I did over there. I'm going to do it over here as well. But instead of being over here, I'm just going to place it over there. And instead of making the kick go until the end, I'm going to cut the kick from here. There's a one... Maybe do it like this. Let's see. Perfect. Another thing that we're gonna do over here in the kick and the bass is, since this is a bridge, we're gonna just filter it out a little bit as well from here. We can also do the same that we did over there. And slightly disappear with it. Again, we want it to be natural. We want it to go away naturally and not abruptly, as it's happening right now. Remember the sidechain that we added? So again, we now have to take it off the element. So we're gonna just go into our automations. We're gonna click on anything that has a bass, because we're not in the bass section anymore. We're not in the drop section anymore, sorry. So since we're not in the drop section anymore, we don't need LFO2 over here in this break. So we're gonna disable it. Yeah, but what about this bridge? Do we need LFO in the bridge as well? Normally I do put it. I only take it in the whole section. And even when I do these cuts over here, I leave it playing because this is still a drop section. So that's why it's still gonna be playing. And now I'm just gonna copy this to all the channels that I've added the LFO to. This should have LFO as well, and I'm gonna add it afterwards. This has it, so boom. This has it, so boom. What else has it? This also has it. Do we add to the vocals? We're gonna see if it's needed. Normally I do add it in the vocals as well, but it's up to taste. So now we also are going to add a little bit over here in this lid additional. We're also going to add in the rhythm pad. And we're also going to add over here in these strings over here. Maybe a bit more percussions. Just doing some light adjustment here. Let's leave that for another section. And now we're going into the bass, the break. I'd keep this going instead of changing the note. Well, let's change it. Let's keep how they intended to be. This, I'm not sure I would put it over there. I'm probably gonna take it off. Because you can see it's not really going to any new section. Possibly if we had that over here, it would be a bit better. Sidechain, right? So here it's going to be different. Here we don't have any sub, so I'm going to duplicate this channel. We don't have any sub over here playing, right? You can see that the sub channel that we have, it's not there. So since the sub is not there, I don't need this EQ8 that we had over there. And we can add everything with the whole bass. But again, I'm not really liking that oof. Ooh. Now, same thing for this bass. Is there any sub here? Yes, there is. So since there is sub over there, we're going to do the same cut that we had over there in the mid bass. We're going to add it over here because we don't need it. And the same sidechain, we're going to add it over there as well. Remember that lead that we had in the effects? This is over here in the melody section, because again, this is a melody, this is not an effects. Sidechain to this one as well. A bit less though here. Remember that low end cut that we had over here and the sidechain. Same thing is gonna happen over here for this. We don't need that much of that really low end frequency. We're gonna raise this in volume as well. Okay, so we've gone through a little bit of the break. We've gone a little bit through the drop as well. Now we're gonna go a little bit into how is this sounding melodically comparing to the reference track? Because we've done a lot of things that were not so sectioned. We went into the bass, we went into the melodics, then we went back to the bass, went to the drums, and then we started adjusting a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of the break, a little bit of the drop too as well. Essentially what we're gonna do here now is, how is our song sounding comparing to the reference track? And for this, I'm gonna use a technique that I always use. You can see it over here in the top right corner, called EQ matching. Basically what EQ matching does is you're gonna capture the reference track, the EQ curve of the reference track, and compare it to yours. So reference track. Now this one. Can you see that everything that essentially what this is telling us is that we need to raise a little bit more in the mids, we need to raise a lot in the highs, and over here I'm not really caring because this is something that we already adjusted with the spectrum over here, so this considered, let's say like this, okay? But essentially, can you see that this is telling us that this needs to be raised? Essentially, this white line is telling us do this, and then your source curve will be exactly like the target curve. But we don't need to actually do that. We can adjust our mix for the mix to do that, and this way we can replicate it. So a little bit more mids, a little bit more highs, a little bit more of this. Now we have to listen and think, what do we need to raise? Is it percussive? For example, this high end over here, is it percussive? Is it melodically? Same thing over here, is it percussive? Is it melodically? Normally this would be melodic, normally this would be percussive. Do they have to be a flat line? No. Normally anything that is within, anything that is within this range to me is considered settled. Like I'm okay with this, something like this, I'm okay with this. So you can see that a lot of our mix, I'm okay with that. But there's a lot of the mix that I need to fix. For example, the high end, this over here. So I'm gonna listen a little bit to the tracks. I'm gonna make some notes, what I think that could change over here. And I'm gonna start doing some EQing as well. Well, the first thing is that the reference track, we have a lead that we don't really have in this one. The lead over here is really sparse, while the lead is over there is really present and all the time. So looking again at the EQ match, so looking at my EQ match over here, a lot of this could be because the lead is just more present over there. But this could be the hi-hats, they need to be more present. So I'm going to listen now to the hi-hats, and we're going to do something for you to listen as well. Remember that this is 10K, so let's listen to 10K plus. We're going to listen to my track, and we're going to listen to this track that we're working on. This reference, this is this track. Reference, this track. I can't hear it. I can't hear it low. Okay. This is reference track. It's playing at -25 LUFS. Now this track, it's playing at -32. So can you see how this frequency over here needs to be raised? How are we going to raise this? We can raise it in multiple ways. We can go the lazy way and just go in the master drums and just do something like this. Just really big over here. Or we can go channel by channel. I prefer to go channel by channel, so that's how I'm gonna do it over here. Because again, the intensity that I'm gonna do for each channel is gonna be different. This is a hat. Gonna have to be really careful with this. Possibly a bit too much. And possibly this could have been a bit too much over here as well. So I don't hear the clap of the reference track being that high, so I'm gonna take this off. Can you see that the clap over here is a lot higher? So I'm gonna leave it over here. I'm gonna go back to how it was. Same thing here. Possibly over here, when we add a lot more elements, this could solve it a little bit. So we're gonna take it from here again. You can see that it got a little closer to how it was. It was a lot higher. We got a little closer. Now we have to solve a little bit more. We're gonna go over here in the 10K region. We're probably gonna raise this over here. And we're gonna also boost a little bit of the melodics as well, because possibly the melodics could be causing this. Like, this is a bit too not so bright. Even though when we do this, it doesn't really change that much. So no point on doing it over here. Possibly we need to do it over here in the ARP. Yeah, my computer is really not liking this, but anyway. Let's raise this as well. Let's raise this a bit as well. Let's take the low end out of it first. And raise this. Possibly the counter lead. Possibly, what else can we raise this in the melodics? I feel that this could be raised as well. And again, since we need to raise a little bit of the mids as well, we're gonna just come here and adjust it over there as well. So now, if we listen, can you see how we're getting closer over here because we raised a lot of the melodics over here? We're gonna raise a bit more over here in this, I don't know, 2K to 6K. And I feel that this could be the melodics, so we're gonna go over here and raise that over there as well. I really wish that we had more content from this coming. It's really, really filtered and it's not so bright. We need to raise 2 to 6K again, so we're gonna focus on this region. This could also be raised. How is our loudness compared? Let's listen over here again. Let's compare again with the EQ match. EQ matching is an arduous process. You have to do it over and over and over and over again. I'm starting to be okay. We have a little bit more to raise over here in this section as well. I'm gonna leave this for a moment. I'm gonna go over here first. This over here, what could be this? This could be the mid bass, okay? Because of the frequency that we're having over here. That could be the pad as well. So we can get this from the pad as well, just so you can see it. Leo, how do you know it could be the pad? Well, we've done this 1,000 times, but just so you can listen, if we listen only to the pads, can you see how the pads are? Oops, we have to take everything again. Let's take the curve again. Can you see how now if we put this over here, this is exactly where the pads are playing. But we possibly could filter these pads a bit more. And raise them. Let's take this off. It's not clipping now. Let's raise it also a little bit over here. That's what, 200? Let's raise this section over here also in our bass. Can you see how every adjustment that I'm doing is being based on the reference track and what I'm getting in the EQ match and everything? This is really important because comparing to a different reference track could possibly lead me somewhere else, okay? Now, so we can listen, I did some changes. It's important to point one thing out as well. A lot of what I'm doing, for example, we raised a lot of the pads to fit what I was seeing in the ozone. But now I feel that the pads are a bit too loud. Like you can easily fool yourself by going in a different route. Let's say that this was just raising the bass and we raise the pads instead. We can easily fool ourselves and get in a different way. So it's always important to listen and see what I've done and is it what I want to be, is the direction that I want to be with the song. So over here, I'd rather raise the bass instead. Again, as I did, I'm probably just gonna raise it a bit more. And take this. Can you see how we're getting closer and closer and closer and closer? That's essentially what we're gonna do. We also have a lot of it over here in 200. That could be because this song plays a lot in this section, like it plays a lot over there. But this could also be that, again, we're raising and it still needs something. Probably if you raise it, like, let's try raising it 2 dB over here. Getting closer and closer. But I feel that this was a bit too much now. What if you raise this a bit as well? I raised this in 3 dB, so it's quite a drastic adjustment. Over here. Can you see how we're getting closer and closer? And again, now it's starting to get a little bit in that region where I don't care anymore. Like, honestly, this is not something that you have to flatline all the time. This is just a reference. Again, this is just something that you have to listen and be like, okay, maybe I need to raise this a little bit more. Maybe I need to raise this a little bit more. But like, do you really need to? It depends. we're doing just comparing to one track. Let's see what it happens when we compare it to another track. Let's compare it to Bound to Divides right now. And you see that it's saying to us the same thing, raise here and raise here. So if it's saying the same thing to us, maybe there's a thing there. Maybe we're just not in the position where we actually need to raise this, because both tracks, both references said the same thing. We need to raise over here and we need to raise over there. I'm not really listening to this, but since both tracks are saying that to me, I'm gonna, okay, I might be wrong, okay? So I'm gonna go back here. Another thing to consider is, do we have elements? Like maybe that could be the top lead that we don't have, for example. So that's always something to pay attention to. For example, in the Bound to Divides track, oops, we don't have that lead so prominent. So maybe having that ARP a little bit louder as well could be a solution. Not the whole track, because not the whole track needs to be louder, but just this section over here. Because can you see that this is a bit louder than this? So we're just gonna raise this from here onwards. 3 dB, possibly, and that could possibly solve it. And you see how we solved this issue now? That was already louder, we are already getting closer and closer, but we still have this over here to solve. And again, when I listen to the Bound to Divides track, it's almost clear that the hi-hats need to be louder. Oops. EQ match is on. Can you listen to the hi-hats need to be louder? So again, it's a lot of the referencing that we're talking about. So just gonna come here and raise almost everything in 1 dB. 2 dB actually. Now that we raised it in 2 dB, I guess that this could be solved. Let's see. Oops. Boom, we solved another thing. We created a new problem now. We need to lower this region, but we're solving everything and we're getting the song closer and closer and closer to the reference tracks. Again, I don't care about this because we already mixed this with the EQ. And this is something like maybe we just need, like there's just something that we don't have over there that we probably won't be able to push. And again, it's almost within that range that we don't have to care about. So let's just leave it like this and just listen to how it sounds now. Again, always listen, because now that I listen, I feel that this is a bit too loud. I'm just gonna lower it. And this is feeling a lot better to me. What if this was lower? No, it doesn't work. Let's give a playthrough in our drop and see if anything we can spot. Can you see how this becomes too loud over here? So we're gonna have to have some kind of dynamic EQ over here. And for this, I'm gonna use Neutron. Neutron 4, where are you? I'm gonna use Neutron Equalizer. Essentially what I'm gonna do here is I'm just want to control that bass whenever it's too loud. So this section over here, I'm gonna leave it like this, because it's exactly this region that it's becoming a bit too loud when they open the cutoff, but this is going to be dynamic. Can you see how it's more controlled? Where it's more aggressive, it lowers it. Where it's not so aggressive, it remains the same. And let's raise this main lead over here a little bit. Really put it in the... If you're liking the video, hit the like button. If you loved it, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos from Abstrakt Music Lab. And let's keep on going. I'm kind of missing something over here, so I'm gonna take the liberty. Maybe this could be a bit louder. Drop is sounding pretty nice. I still want to listen on my speakers, but at the moment it's sounding pretty nice. I'm gonna go a little bit into the intro because we haven't touched the drop over here, the intro so far. Why haven't we touched the intro so far? Because first I want to make sure that the drop is how I want it, and then afterwards I go adjusting the less important parts. Same thing with the same principle when mixing the song. We're gonna first adjust the kick and the bass, which are the most important parts, and then we're gonna adjust the less important parts, which are the melodics and percussions and everything. So same thing over here. I already hear something that could be a problem. For example, over here, can you see that this part of the lead is already louder than the drop itself? That could be a problem, so I'm not sure. I'm just gonna listen and see how it goes. No sidechain over here. We don't need sidechain over here. So same thing for everything else. I don't think that we cut the sidechain from here. Just gonna come here, copy this, and put for all the channels that we have sidechain. We don't need sidechain over here. Boom. Boom, boom. We have sidechain somewhere. We do have sidechain over here, but nothing. Okay, do we have bass over here? Yes, we do. We don't need sidechain. We don't need sidechain over here as well. In the intro, we're introducing the idea, so we can't spoil the idea. We can't make anything louder than the drop. We have to make the drop the loudest part of the song, so... And I'm thinking about using that piano midway through the drop as well. I don't know, just an idea. We have such nice elements over here, like the strings. This sub comes really nicely, but I feel that it comes a bit too loud. So I'm just gonna remember that part that I mentioned to you, that it could be a bit too loud. And this was my how can I say, worry. So instead of just doing anything, I'm just gonna automate the volume over here. Let's do something like this. Again, we want to make the drop part a lot louder. Okay, it feels a lot better because we took this really drastic EQ that we had over here. And we don't need this. I'm actually thinking about filtering this a little bit as well. And Leo, but it's not your track. Yeah, I know. Problem, right? Possibly something like this. I don't want this part to be brighter than the drop itself. That's why I'm doing this. And we're gonna get rid of this sub over here. Remember this over here that we had? We're gonna do the same kind of adjustment over here. And there is some sort of element over here that has a lot of... Which again, this was automated. I don't know why. Especially over here. Before the drop, we're gonna automate it. The idea here is to make a wall of sound over here. And you see how when a drop comes, it's like instant gratification. I'm probably gonna wait a little bit until this hat comes. And here I'm gonna introduce it a bit quieter. But can you see how everything that we're doing in the intro interferes how we're gonna go into the drop? We're gonna deal with the vocal afterwards, so don't worry about this. Wall of sound, and there you go. Let's keep on going. I kind of want those strings that they had over here a bit louder. I'm gonna copy and make it louder here. But I'm probably gonna copy the same way that they had over there. Exactly same way. I'm just checking because over here, I'm checking the baseline. Essentially, this reflects to this. So, in these strings, this part stays over here, and this goes over here. Then I copy this. Just so you can understand what am I doing. When we copy this part over here, I was imagining that this was the beginning of the 8-bar loop, but this is actually the end comparing to the bass. So we need to match this over here to this section over here. That's why I copied over there and then I copied back. But anyway. I'm almost like, to me, it feels done. Raise it in a bit. And I'm only gonna put this in the drops. Just a bit brighter here in the drops. A bit less. Let's go into the break. Let's see if there's anything that we need to do over here. So there's this flam, 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 flam that is a bit too loud. Possibly this is it. Yeah, why this is happening? Because we added this a lot. So let's duplicate this, take this away from here, take this away from there, and take this away from here. And then we can take this away from here. Oops, we took it away from the wrong place. Possibly these pads can be a bit quieter, so we're gonna go here and just make it a bit quieter. Again, we don't want to spiral drop too. That's why we're making this a bit quieter here. This less interesting here as well. Possibly making this quieter. This lead is really nice to give tension, that additional lead. This is a bit loud, this drum fill. Can you see how big this comes? I believe that in 15 minutes more we're gonna end this. And over here I'm gonna do another. Could be a bit quieter. Again, everything is just ending. And same thing over here, it just ends. You know, I'm gonna make this a bit longer. Now we're gonna work in the transition from the drop 2 to this. Now this, we can end this over here, no problem. But instead of just boom, you know, we're gonna make a bass cut. Kick cut, sorry. And we're going to make something like this. To the sub. And we're gonna, again, remember that this happened the past time because we didn't have that note over here. So we're gonna just copy here. And we're gonna add a lot of those effects as well. They might not have it over here, so that's why we're gonna go here and add it. Boom. So adding it here. There's some swells. Boom. And then we're gonna start filtering this as well. again, we want to filter everything that we don't have because we want to end the song, right? And the more we transition, the more natural this ending is, the better, because the more natural it feels, right? Same thing we're going to do here with the pads. Same thing that we're going to do here with the... We're going to start filtering everything from the top up. At the same time in the intro, we are constructing the song. This time we're deconstructing the song. So we're going to do this with the percussions. We're going to do this with... And we're going to do this with this bass over here as well. Do we need this? I don't think so. And we probably can get rid of the sidechain as well. So back to the sidechain. We're gonna cut everything from here onwards. Sidechaining, boom. 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 Do we need to have sidechaining over here? Yes, we do. Where's the pads? Where are the pads? Same thing over here. This. Yes, essentially that's it. And we're gonna filter those pads over here as well. We're gonna have to filter this as well. The tabs. Where are the tabs? Here. These strings. No sidechain here as well. A bit quieter. Let's just cut this with volume. Same thing to these effects. We can't let them linger and then just disappear. So what we're going to do is we're going to link this and create a fade throughout the end over here. Where is this coming from? Is it from here? Yes. No, no, no. Possibly here. The hats. So we're going to have to create this fade over here in the hats. Just so the song ends in 0. Boom. Now, over here, we have a new thing that we're going to have to pay attention to. Let's just listen again to the transition. There's some kind of dissonance in the pads. Listen how the pads change notes. Especially here. And the bass doesn't. So we're just gonna keep the pads as they were. We're gonna have to just copy and paste this. I'm just gonna duplicate. Boom. Let's see if that works. Works better. Let's give a last playthrough, and we're gonna do our final adjustments, and essentially that will be it. But now I'm gonna listen on my speakers because now I'm gonna be able to detect things that I didn't detect before. So speakers on. I'm gonna turn my mic off, and now I'm probably not gonna listen to anything that I say. So when listening on speakers, one thing that I detect is when this becomes a bit too bright. So we're gonna have to lower even more. I'm actually thinking about replacing this section with something else and see if they buy it. We're also gonna have to make this over here. I feel that that was enough over there, but we're also gonna have to create an impact, a bigger impact over there in the song. So again, you can see me doing this in the top right corner. There's a video over there that I show how you do this and why I do this. Essentially, we're gonna create a little bit of impact in the sound by just turning it down in level a little bit before the drop. And same thing with the wideness. We're gonna turn the wideness a little bit down before the drop. So this way, when the drop comes, it feels wider and louder, but we're just fooling with each other, with the people's brain. Yeah. So one thing that I'm considering now is also turning the whole section a bit down in like half a dB, just because I feel that this section is a bit too loud and it's overtaking the drop. The drop is not feeling as impacting, and I'm listening to the impact of the sound right now. So possibly I'll need to dial this a bit down, but let's see how it sounds. And now the drop feels a lot more impacting. When listening over here on speakers, I kind of feel that the hi-hats are a bit too loud. So I'm going to listen to the references, and I'm going to listen to this and make sure that the percussion is not as loud. Probably going to lower it in 1 dB. one thing that we forgot to do is actually filter this, because we don't need to be that bright over here. Since we're going for a moment that it's really dark, we're just gonna filter this as well over here. We can even start it a bit darkish, less bright. Maybe just do something like this. And just so it doesn't come out of nowhere, we just do a little bit of a curve over here. Now this is a bit too long, so I'm gonna just make it a bit quieter. Same thing as we did over here in the drop 1, we're going to do here in the drop 2. We're going to make this less intense. My mouse is really wonky. So this way the drop 2 feels more impacting. We're just testing some stuff over there. I really like this. The only thing that I'm kind of like is the hi-hat a bit too loud. Zero felt too quiet, 1 felt too loud, half is the way. And I'm really happy with this. I'm happy how this turned out. And you can compare with how it started over there in the beginning. I'm going to leave how you can... I'm going to leave over there how it was in the beginning as well. But I'm really happy with the session. So in 1 hour and 45 minutes, well, with the first song over there in the beginning, it's going to be 1 hour and 50 minutes. Where we mixed a full song start to finish. And it's not a song that I've done. It's not a song that it was done by myself. So it was something really cool that you can see how I would mix something done by someone else, because this way it's done completely different. It's something that you can take bits and bits from. And that was really cool because I liked it how this was not a session that it was my track, and there was a lot of things that we had to do it from the beginning. That's why it took so long, and why it took a bit longer than my own mix and master session. But I'm really happy with the result. I like how the sound is at the moment. I like how the song is consistent. I like how the bass is consistent throughout the song. We fixed a lot of that as well. And I hope you liked the session as well. And if you liked it, hit the like button. If you loved it, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out any other future videos from Abstrakt Music Lab. And I hope to see you in the next Abstrakt video next week. Ciao.